request CA Arun Narang to please give a formal introduction of our guest speaker before we begin with the session. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good evening to all my fellow members. Let me give a warm welcome to our today's speaker, Sri Arup Das Ji Gupta.
Thank you.
And also I am taking this opportunity to introduce him in this session. Mr. Arup has over 2 decades of experience in tax laws and other allied laws. Formerly, he has worked with CA firm Biswas Das Gupta Datta and Roy and a leading advertisement agency as a general manager. Currently, he is into practice primarily handling tax litigations and advisories only. He has set his pillars of success on a very strong point, that is a hardcore compliance professional with a deep interest in tax litigation and advisories. He is a vivid degree holder and holds title of CA, CS, CISA US and diploma in IFRS UK. His other ventures other than practice include publication of articles in journals, training of students, professionals, senior government officers, trade bodies on GST, other IDT related topics. He is a member of AIF, TP, BCAS, CGPI, IDTPF. With this word, I request him to head the session and share his knowledge with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arunji and Pujaji for the wonderful introduction. And it's really a pleasure. And because of digital and maybe one of the blessings of COVID is that we are meeting online without having to travel to Surat. So it's a wonderful way of sharing information amongst all of us. And since our time is limited, so maybe I'll just go into the topic directly. And just before going into the topic, I'll just take 2 minutes to discuss about a different thing altogether, just 2 minutes, which is of severe importance as on date today, because yesterday only I had a session where we discussed about it. It's about claiming all our ITCs of 1920 within the due date of 3B. So some of our professional brothers and sisters, they were sharing that we are having, it's a very clumsy issue because we have been taking credit from February onwards. You know, even though it was not matching the rule 36.4, वो लेके आ गए हम लोग, फिर अभी आके हम लोग को रिको करना पड़ रहा है, बहुत दिक्कत आ रही है. So what we are suggesting is for September, please do the RICO from the 2B itself for whatever September data you have. A wonderful 2B form is being shared by the GSTN, and a wonderful matching tool which you will get in the download section that is also shared by GSTN. And I can assure you that since I've already used the GSTN matching tool and 3 other softwares, GSTN matching tool is one of the best matching tools that is being available as on date. And apart from September, आपका पुराना अगर कोई भी कुछ है, तो उसके लिए आप जो करो कि आप 2A जो भी इसमें GST आपको पोर्टल से जो निकल रहा है 2A, उसको आप डाउनलोड कर लो. Now 2A में एक बड़ा फायदा ये है कि बंदा कभी भी, even if the supplier he is submitting his GSTR 1 for February in the month of September, वो मेरा February का 2A में ही दिखाएगा, not in September 2A. So that's why please download all the 2As that are available from the system. If you have more than 500 entries, Excel download थोड़ा time लगता है, but otherwise it is taking around 5 minutes only. But even after 20 minutes you're getting the downloads. तो सारा 2A को लेके आप VLOOKUP करके you can do the matchings within 1 hour maximum, मतलब जो time लग रहा है. So please don't get into any kind of complication कि नहीं हो रहा है तो उसको हम लोग पूरा reverse कर देंगे या पूरा ले लेंगे. Please don't do that, because the option of taking wrong credit will be that later on when you reverse, you have to pay interest and also penalty. Because as you know, the recent amendment that has come, they are saying that no DRC 01A has to be issued now. They have changed the word from shall to may. So that's why please be careful about rule 36.4. अगर कहीं पे हम लोग गलती होता है तो फिर वो लोग, then the department, they can actually directly send us a show cause with determining the amount. So having said that, since this is very important, and also we need to do the 2A reconciliation to understand कि हम लोगों के कुछ client में हम लोगों को दिखा ये कि 1920 का, because there was this COVID thing and a lot of other issues were there. 1920 का कुछ credit हम लोगों ने नहीं लिया था. So we need to do 2A also, wherein the ITC is there in the 2A but not in the books of the buyer. तो उसको भी समझना है कि कहीं पे एक साथ जोड़ के accounting कर लिया कि क्या किया है. तो वो भी लेने का the last date as of now is 20th October, which we don't know whether it will be extended or not. But as of now, the last date is 20th October. So let's do this reconciliation and get the proper credits and also reverse the excess credits that we have taken if it is not fulfilling as per the latest circular issue. So having said that, I'll now go to the topic of the day, which is again very important. And my reason for studying this particular topic or choosing this particular topic is because I have faced a lot of litigations based on this particular topic. So I felt that, why should taxpayers, when not taxpayers actually, the legal heirs of the taxpayers, they should be unnecessarily harassed and they have to pay so much of interest penalties just because they don't know about GST. So that's why I've done the entire study on this particular topic. And I feel that once we share the information, maybe I'll come to know something from the Honorable House also here. So once we come to know and share the information, maybe we can go back and help all the legal heirs. So as the topic suggests, it's about GST impact on the death of the proprietor and how to carry forward the ITC to the legal heir. So what will be the key agenda that we are planning to do today? We'll first discuss options available to legal heir, the process for registration, the process for cancellation, the ITC, whether we'll reverse it or transfer it, the payment of assessed dues of the deceased, as in the deceased proprietor, he had some dues which he had not paid in his lifetime. So now, after his passing away, whether the legal representative who is discontinuing the business or is continuing the business, how they have to pay the liabilities of the deceased. Finally, there is one common question that often comes to us: ki, my father has passed away, so I have transferred his business to my name. Now somebody is telling me that ye transfer पे भी GST लगता है whenever you are transferring your business. Okay, so whether इस पे GST लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा, अगर नहीं लगेगा तो क्यों नहीं लगेगा? So we are trying to basically resolve the major questions that come to us off and on. So upon death of the proprietor, we have basically two options available to us. One is shut down the business. Second is the legal heir takes on the responsibility, takes on the mental of the businessman, and वो सोचते हैं कि चलो हम आगे इसको बढ़ाएंगे, हम business आगे में करेंगे. So these are the two options. Now, as I have decided the structure of today's deliberate discussion, first I will discuss about one of the options, which is where the legal heir decides to close down the business. He is maybe working in some IT company. Like I had a real life case wherein the son, he's working in an IT company. He's in a huge position. And suddenly his mother, who used to own a huge boutique, she passes away. So how does it happen? So he came to us that, I don't want to continue the business. So hum log kya karenge? So there may be a situation wherein because of other reasons, they don't want to continue the business. So usme kya karna padega? What are the rules? What are the obligations that we are going to discuss? So before going any further, I would like to just uh, draw your attention to one of the sections of GST जो हम लोग काफी कम देखते हैं because it's not as important as section 16 या फिर section 17 बोलिए, okay, or 37 or the other section 44 and all other sections that we often refer to 73, 74 things like that. So इसमें क्या बताया गया? They are saying that same as otherwise provided in IBC, because IBC has a different model altogether, a waterfall model as to how everybody is going to be paid out of the state of the company, out of the company which is going into liquidation. So apart from IBC cases, where a person liable to pay tax, interest or penalty under this act dies, then what happens if the person who is a legal heir is actually discontinuing the business? Okay, and his legal representative shall be liable to pay out of the state of the deceased to the extent to which the state is capable of meeting the charge, the tax, interest or penalty due from such person under the act. So इसमें क्या है? There is a business going on and there is an assessment of tax or interest or penalty either before the death of the person or after the death of the taxpayer. So in either of the situations, the assessment is done and the legal representative is actually supposed to make good the payment. So इसमें क्या होगा? What is the maximum cap? The maximum cap is the amount available from the state to the legal representative for meeting all these taxes. तो अगर उनका total net assets from the state is say 2 lakhs and his total liability is say 10 lakhs, then the maximum that the legal representative needs to pay is only 2 lakhs. And there is only one condition here, that whether the tax or has been determined before his death or it's determined after his death, that is irrelevant. In either of these cases, if it is due and outstanding in the name of the deceased, then the legal representative has to pay it out of the state, whatever amount is available. So what is the first question that we get, or what are the actions to be taken if the legal heir wants to close down the business? नहीं करना है, आगे जाना है. तो पहले हम लोग क्या करेंगे, हम लोग रिटर्न का स्टेटस क्या है वो देखेंगे, क्योंकि रिटर्न के स्टेटस के ऊपर बेस करके आपका अगला जो स्टेप है, क्या जैसे कैंसिलेशन हुआ या जो भी है वो आपको देखना पड़ेगा. So how do you know that whether the returns are filed in time or not? Simple thing is, अगर आपके पास GST का यूजर आईडी पासवर्ड है, तो you go to the portal, go to the services tab, returns, and you track your return status, and you're aware that okay, the deceased proprietor, he has already filed returns for this period, or he has not filed the returns for this particular period. Okay, so this is the place wherein you are getting it from here. The track return status हम लोग वहां से मिल रहा है, and हम लोग मतलब picture clear हो जाएगा अपने पास कि what is the status of the returns that needs to be filed and what are the returns that have already been filed. So the second scenario also which we face in at certain times is, sir, मेरे पिताजी ने मुझे या फिर किसी कंसल्टेंट को या फिर अकाउंटेंट को उनका यूजर आईडी पासवर्ड नहीं दिया है और बताया भी नहीं. अभी क्या है कि you can change the user ID and the password by doing, by logging in and using the using your a different mobile number or the email ID to change the the credentials and all, but that is not legally correct. So that's why what we suggest to the taxpayers is, sir, आप एक काम करो, आप GST पोर्टल पे जाओ, वहां पे सर्च एज टैक्सपेयर बोल के एक टैब है, वो आपको इसके लिए आपको लॉगिन का, यू डोंट नीड टू डू एनी लॉगिन. तो आप सिर्फ उसमें जाओ, जाके सर्च एज टैक्सपेयर में आप देखो, सर्च एज टैक्सपेयर जैसे ही आप नंबर डालोगे तो उसमें भी आपका फाइलिंग का ऐसा डिटेल्स दिखाएगा जैसे नीचे दिखा रहा है. So from here also we come to know as to what is the filing status of the deceased proprietor. And we also come to know what is the jurisdiction of the particular person, to where is that particular place where you need to go and meet the proper officer to change the user ID and the password. So once the filing details are clear, then what we need to arrange is we need to arrange the death certificate. Okay, and we need to get the identity proof of the deceased, that we must be having, the voter card or the Aadhaar card or any kind of proof that this is the deceased person. Third thing is identity proof of the legal heir. Say if he is a son, then he will be having his PAN card where his father's name will be written, or in his passport where his mother's name is written. So all these details wherein both the proofs are aligned together, connected together. Fourth key thing is the GST certificate of the deceased. That is very important. Okay, and we normally get this from some of the tax files, वहाँ पे मिल जाता है, या कुछ भी अगर नहीं है तो दरवाजा पे लगाया होता है. Wherever your GST certificate can get from, we'll just get a copy of that. And the fifth thing is the return filing status that we have got in the previous slides, either by logging into the portal and seeing it from the return status tab, or logging in as a search as taxpayer, searching the number, searching the details by giving the GST number, and then searching the filing status. So once we get all this data, and in some states it is like succession certificate is compulsory, so we have to get the succession certificates also. So only after all these things are clear, then what we need to do, we need to do a manual letter simply, and we can go to the proper officer and request him to change the user ID and the password for the deceased proprietor. Okay, so what the proper officer normally does is that he just goes through the details of the documents, and once if he's satisfied that okay, it's a genuine case wherein without the new user ID and password, the legal heir cannot complete the residual formalities of cancellation, of filing the returns, paying the taxes, okay, transferring the ITC, and so many other gamut of things that are there that needs to be done. If he's satisfied, then he's going to give a fresh link. Basis this fresh link, जैसे हम लोगों को नया जब हम लोग रजिस्ट्रेशन देते हैं तो हम लोगों के पास एक लिंक आता है. Similarly, a fresh link will come, and on the basis of that link, the new authorized signatory can change the user ID or the password as they deem to do. So now the next FAQ that is asked is how the cancellation application needs to be filed by the legal heir in case of closure by as per section 29. So first thing is I'll tell you it is not mandatory, but it is recommendatory to file all pending returns till the date of death, by paying all the payment of taxes. Because what happens is कभी कभी कुछ जो proper officers they are not satisfied with the thing कि आपने काफी सारा suppose 6-8 महीने का आपने वो pending में रख दिया return, वो cancel करने में they are not comfortable, though they know that even after cancellation they can make you compulsory that आपको ये return file करना है जो भी है. But the best thing is that you just file all the returns and then file the cancellation application. Okay, and while filing the cancellation application, we need to understand that there is a reason, reason that needs to be given for the cancellation. We should give the reason as death of a proprietor. So that's why I've categorically mentioned here that the reason is very important. The process of cancellation of the registration, which the legal heir needs to follow, is that they'll just submit the application, and once the application is filed and it is proper in all respects, then the RAG 19 में उनका order मिल जाएगा, and once the thing is done and the show cause notice is, if there is any show cause notice हम लोग reply properly दे देते हैं, then the cancellation will happen, and once the cancellation happens, then what happens is that you just need to do is you need to file the final return within 3 months. Okay, so क्या होता है कि normally the situation is that we file the cancellation application and then normally we see that there are show cause notices which are coming in saying that आपने वो return नहीं भरा है, या फिर आप ये इसका एविडेंस दीजिए, आप बिजनेस प्लेस का एविडेंस दीजिए, बैंक क्लोजर का एविडेंस दीजिए, या फिर आपने ट्रेड लाइसेंस सरेंडर किया है उसका एविडेंस दीजिए. ये सब देने के बाद जब when he's satisfied that okay the documents and the information are in line, then he is going to cancel the registration and intimate the same to the new authorized signatory. Okay, and one important thing which many people also ask us, that's why I mentioned in the last, that is as per rule 22.5 कि actually ये cancellation application तो जो गुजर गए उनको देना था, the deceased the proprietor, तो हम लोग दे रहे हैं, तो इसमें कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं आएगी ना बाद में कि हम तो टैक्स पेयर ही नहीं है तो हम लोगों ने कैसे दिया. The only thing is that that's why we need to understand that rule 22.5 has been categorically included for this purpose, mentioning that the provisions of rule 22.3 as I've mentioned above shall mutatis mutandis apply to the legal heirs of the deceased proprietor as if the application has been made by the proprietor himself. So you are just stepping into the shoes of the deceased proprietor. So ये जो documents आपको add करना है वो मैंने यहाँ पे डाल दिया है. और cancellation के लिए जो भी है ये this is not a full thing, because in some cases some of the learned officers, they'll ask the proper officers, they may ask for additional documents as per the suitability of the local place and as per the local requirements. But normally what they ask is the death certificate of the deceased, the ID proof, and address proof of the deceased, the ID proof of the legal representative, the proof of business closure, which is normally the surrender of the trade license and the business licenses, provisional tax हो सकता है, या फिर if you have number of bank accounts, then maybe you close all the bank accounts and just keep one bank account to finally make the payment of taxes if any. Okay, and then in many states, like in many eastern states, we have this custom of giving the indemnity certificate. ये indemnity certificate में authorized legal representative क्या बोल रहे हैं कि अगर कल जाके कोई भी टैक्स बनता है या फिर ड्यू होता है because of some reason which the deceased proprietor has not followed properly, maybe there was some non compliance या फिर कोई fake invoice का case आया या कुछ भी हो, अगर कोई भी legal due which is legally payable is arising to the deceased proprietor, then we will make good the payment and we will pay the same. इसका एक indemnity certificate भी कभी-कभी file करना पड़ता है, but it's not a compulsion. Nowhere in the rule it is written, but for the sake of comfort, in many places we have to furnish this. Apart from that, of course, detail of stock held on the date of death देना पड़ेगा क्योंकि इस पे आपको टैक्स भरना पड़ता है, तो इसलिए details of stock held on the date of death वो आपको फॉर्म जब आप फाइल कर रहे हो तो उसी पे आपको देना पड़ेगा. Okay, so within how many days the application for cancellation needs to be filed? See, as per the rules, it is within 30 days from the occurrence of the event. Here, it is the date of death of the proprietor. But considering the practical situation, in some states, it takes us around 10-12 days to get the death certificate itself. There are some rituals, there are some rights, final rights which are there. जिसके लिए they spend time of say 15 to 20 days. इसमें भी time चला जाता है. So considering all the practical situations that happen, normally this 30 days rule is not strictly followed by the department. As of now, till the number of cases that I've handled, either in terms of litigation or in terms of compliance, I have seen that the learned officers, they have always given a waiver on this particular point of timeline, considering the practical problems that are faced by the legal aid. So this is RIG 16 and this is a cancellation application. So I would not like to go through it in detail. Only thing is that why I've put this is for the portion that, wherever there are details as to the stock, as you can see here, the stock details need to be given and what is the tax you're paying, okay, or the ITC, that you need to reverse either ways, the transaction value or the ITC that need to be reversed, what you are paying, that needs to be given out here. So that for that, you need to do all the computations before you file the cancellation application. And these are the rules as to how it has to be done. Now, as we have just seen in the previous slide, that the details of the stock as on the date of death has to be given. And the ITC needs to be reversed or the tax needs to be paid on the transaction value. So how does this calculation happen? That we need to see. And which is the empowering rule of the section which is actually giving us this power to actually reverse the ITC. That also needs to be seen. The calculation model, how it is happening. So for this, we need to refer to Rule 44, which you all know that, for this in Rule 44, it said that ITC in respect of inputs held in stock or inputs containing self-finished goods held in stock or capitalized goods, the date of cancellation of registration needs to be reversed. Okay, so now how do we calculate as per Rule 44? Corresponding invoices on which the credit has been availed on such inputs or the output tax payable on such goods, whichever is higher, according to that, tax has to be paid. Okay, so in the next slide, I'll just be discussing about this particular methodology. But for the sake of the discussion, it is just the portion of ITC that are availed on the goods that are lying in stock that needs to be reversed, or the output tax that is actually payable on the goods lying in stock that needs to be paid. Either of them, whichever is higher. In case of capital goods, it is computed on a proportionate basis again. ITC involved, as in Rule 44, it's given ITC involved in the remaining useful life in the month of the capital goods, has to be reversed. So suppose I have taken a machine, the deceased proprietor had taken a machine in April 19 and the proprietor has deceased on 31st December 2019. So he has used it only for 9 months out of 5 years. So for 4 years and 3 months, we need to reverse the ITC. Or if we are selling off this capital goods, then we need to check what will be the tax on the transaction value. So whichever is higher, that needs to be paid off as per the calculations. So this is the illustration here. So what is the illustration saying? It's saying that it sells shoes which are taxable under GST. So the total production is 100 pairs, okay, at the rate of 500, GST being 12%. Output sold is 90 and the closing stock that is lying is 10. So it has a market for its semi-finished product, which is polished leather of 25 pieces which are there in the warehouse. And input leather that was purchased was around 2 lakhs, including, of which GST is 36,000. And they also purchased a machinery for 2 lakhs, on which GST of 24,000 was paid. It will not be including, it will be actually excluding. It's just a typo, it will be excluding. It has used the machine for 3 years, 5 months, 7 days. And machinery is sold at 50,000, on which the GST amount is 9,000. It has shut down from 26 May 2020. So in this case, how the calculation will be done? So for the inputs, what we are checking is what is the input that was taken on the leather. So I have, out of the 100 pairs, only 10 pairs is, lying in my stock. So the input on the 10 pairs, which is 3,600. On the polished leather, the input of 9,000 is there. And on the output, on the output, we are having only 6,000 as the, that is there, which is to be payable on the 500 units that are there. Sorry, on the 100 units that are there. So here we need to see that the highest, what are the calculations which are there on the inputs, the ITC that needs to be reversed is 3,600 and 9,000, which is 12,600. Whereas the tax on output that needs to be paid is 6,000. So here we will be reversing 12,600 because that is the higher amount. Because the ITC reversal is a higher amount than the tax on the transaction value that needs to be paid. For the capital goods, what is happening is here 1.5, so 3.5 years have elapsed and only 1.5 years are left out. So what is the proportionate ITC that is remain unutilized is for 1.5 years, which is 7,200. And the tax on the transaction value that they are getting on the 50,000 rupees they are selling is 9,000. So here the tax on transaction value is higher. So here instead of reversing 7,200, as per rule 44, 9,000 will be paid by them on the capital goods. So friends, this is very important to understand that under rule 44, we need to see whether the ITC reversal is higher or the tax on the transaction value is higher. Whichever is higher, that needs to be paid off. Now, the fifth question is that, in case of reversal of ITC, how payment of taxes are going to be made. So what happens is, as I just shared with you, that, in 93.1, the first thing that we started off, it was shared in 93.1 that where a person liable to pay tax, interest or penalty dies, then the legal representative shall be liable. Yeah. So shall be liable to pay out of the state of the deceased to the extent to which the state is capable of meeting the charge, the tax, interest or penalty, which has been determined before his death but has remained unpaid or is determined after his death. So in this case, any amount that is available from his state that can be availed to make the payment of all the ITC reversals or the tax to be paid on the transaction value which they are getting. So any amount which is payable by the deceased under the Act of the Rules would be added to the output tax payable in the final return in Form GST 3 if not paid at the time of cancellation application. So ideally what we do is we make good the payment of all the reversals that need to be done on the stock and on the capital goods on the date of death that we normally pay with the cancellation application, as I've just shared with you, which is also there in RAG 16 if you go through RAG 16. However, if some amount of tax has escaped and we have not made the payment before the cancellation order has been passed, then we get one more opportunity. We get one more opportunity to make good that mistake. That is when we are filing the final return in GST 10 and making good the payment of anything which is liable to be, or which is liable and pending to be made by us. So FSC, the next question is whether ITC of the disease can be adjusted or can be claimed as refund. So see, about the adjustment part, it is very clear. The ITC belongs to the business. The liability is of the business. So we can always utilize ITC for making the payment of taxes. That is not a problem. Okay. And if there is any refund of IDS under the inverted duty structure or export with or without payment of duties, then taxes, then there we can apply. Then we can apply for the refund as it is there. And we can utilize the ITC for export without payment of taxes. But if there is any ITC which is lying in the books and which cannot be claimed as refund, under these two heads, which is the inverted duty structure and export without payment of tax, or if there is no situation to utilize the ITC and it is still lying idle, friends, there is no way to reclaim refund of that ITC and it is going to go bad. It's just going to be there. And after the cancellation happens, it's gone. It's not there. You can't utilize it anymore. That's it. So just to sum up this particular discussion, because why am I sharing all these questions is, these are all practical questions that we have got from the different clients, and or from the accounting teams that, you know, these are the problems and these are the queries that you're having. So one typical query that we get is, sir, मेरे books में जो है ना अभी 12 लाख का credit पड़ा हुआ है, but मेरा tax payable कुछ भी नहीं है because I've already made filed all my returns, you know, filed before the death of the proprietor जो भी था, और पिछले 3-4 महीने से उनका तबीयत खराब था, और फिर मतलब कोविड के लिए दुकान भी नहीं, मतलब हम लोगों ने ऑफिस भी नहीं खोला, जो भी है वो कुछ चला नहीं है, तो अभी जो 12 लाख का क्रेडिट है वो पड़ा हुआ है, और कभी कब तो यूटिलाइज करेंगे हम लोग मालूम भी नहीं है. If it is for plant and machinery, then we already reversed, and you know we have made good the thing of, you know, payment and all, वो तो खत्म हो गया. But even after that, if something is lying, then if that is not refundable under this particular heads, under which are, you know, under which we can claim refund under section 54, then that cannot be claimed as refund, and there is no point in filing any refund application for that. Next question is whether unutilized cash balance of the deceased can be adjusted or can be claimed as refund. Yes, friends, here there is a good question which we have got in some of the cases, where is whether unutilized cash balance can be utilized. Of course, yes, this I don't need to discuss because we all know the thing. And but in second thing, what happens is in some of the cases, the unutilized cash balance is lying in say cess or some late fees, you know, or maybe, you know, some interest or columns like that, where by mistake they have deposited the cash और वहीं पे पड़ा है, अभी तक उन लोगों ने लिया नहीं है. So what we can do is we can actually transfer them by using PMT 09. Once we become the, I mean to say the legal representative becomes the authorized signatory, he has the right and he can use his, you know, EVCs and all to file the PMT 09. And अगर दूसरे किसी हेड पे पड़ा हुआ है, मतलब सेस है या कुछ भी है, तो उससे आप PMT 09 में लेके आप अपना मेन अकाउंट में मेन टैक्स हेड पे ला सकते हो, और वहां से आप अपना लायबिलिटी पेमेंट कर सकते हैं. बट अगर ऐसा सिचुएशन है कि मेरा और कोई पेमेंट लायबिलिटी बनता ही नहीं है, मैंने सारा सब कुछ पेमेंट कर दिया है और इसके बाद जो है मेरा और कुछ पेमेंट रहेगा नहीं, तो देन यू कैन ऑफ कोर्स, इफ देयर इज सम एक्सेस बैलेंस लाइंग इन द कैश लेजर, then you can always claim refund of that by adducing or providing proper supportings in relation to this refund. Because whenever you are showing excess cash balance in your electronic cash ledger, you have to prove that you have filed all your returns properly, claimed the proper ITCs, and then paid this cash in, you know, through the cash, you know, this, and that's why it is residing in your electronic cash ledger. And you need to take away this cash ledger cash balance because you are not going to continue the business. So इसमें जो है कि आपको electronic cash ledger का जो balance है, that can be always claimed as excess cash balance by following the guidelines of Master Circular 125 of 2019. You need to give the requisite documents, and of course you can claim the credit refund. And we have got the refunds in 3 to 4 cases wherein by mistake they had these amounts in the interest column, or you know कभी कभी हो जाता है कि हम लोग जब बिजनेस चालू रहता है तो हम लोग डाल के पैसा डाल के भूल जाते हैं, क्योंकि हर महीना क्या होता है कि हम लोग 3B फाइल करने जाते हैं 19 को, और हड़बड़ी रहता है कि भाई साइट चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, चलो 19 में फाइल कर देते हैं. तो जो भी होता है कि फिर से PMT फाइल करके पैसा को ठीक हेड में लाके वो एडजस्ट करना, सेट ऑफ करना होता नहीं है, तो वो पैसा पड़ा ही रहता है. तो उसके लिए रिफंड हम लोगों को मिला है और आपको भी मिलेगा. अगर आपके किसी क्लाइंट का अगर ऐसा कुछ है सिचुएशन, देन यू कैन ऑलवेज क्लेम एंड यू कैन गेट द रिफंड. Now the next question which comes is, cancellation application is filed. Is there anything else which needs to be done? मैंने डाल दिया मेरा एप्लीकेशन. अभी आई एम वर्किंग, आई एम ए बिग टाइम ऑफिसर इन IT कंपनी, और मेरे पास अभी टाइम नहीं है इसका फॉलोअप करने का. मुझे कुछ करना है कि एप्लीकेशन डाल देने के बाद ही खत्म हो गया. So here I would like to draw your kind attention to Rule 21A, which is newly inserted, and here it talks about suspension of GST registration. Now I would take about a minute or so to discuss the background as to why the suspension of GST registration has come into the picture. It has come into the picture just because of the representations filed by, you know, associations, institutes, the trade bodies. Why have we filed this representation? What was the need, urging need, which made us file all these representations? The urging need was that, say I filed a cancellation application, okay, in the month of December, say 2019, and आज जब अक्टूबर में हम लोग बैठे हैं, तब जाके learned proper officer, he goes through some details and he finds out some problems, and he says that आपका ये मतलब जो भी है आप इसको वो कर दो, ये ला दो, आपने ये क्यों नहीं किया, आपने रिफंड, आपने वो रिटर्न क्यों नहीं भरा, इस बीच में आपको रिटर्न तो भरना चाहिए था, आपको टैक्स बिल आपने टैक्स चार्ज नहीं किया, ठीक है, बट आप रिटर्न तो भरो, आप उसको नॉन जीएसटी में दिखाओ। दैट वाज वन मेजर कंफ्यूजन कि मैंने तो कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन एक पर्टिकुलर डेट में डाला है, 31 दिसंबर 2019 को डाल दिया है, उसके बाद मैं तो जीएसटी बिल नहीं कर सकता हूँ क्योंकि मेरा ये सो मोटो एप्लीकेशन है, मैंने खुद से डाला है। ओके, एंड इसके बाद मेरा तो और कुछ मतलब मैं जीएसटी बिल नहीं कर सकता हूँ, बट दिस रिक्वेस्ट वाज ऑलवेज देयर कि आपको रिटर्न सारा भरना पड़ेगा। ओके, टिल आपका जब तक ये आपने अक्टूबर में मैंने ये आपका एप्लीकेशन पकड़ा है, तो आप तब तक जो है कि आप रिटर्न भरो, फिर से आप आओ। तो दिस वाज गोइंग टू बी अ काउंट 22 सिचुएशन, मतलब चिकन एंड एग स्टोरी, कौन सा क्या होगा नहीं होगा, एंड इसमें डिले हो रहा था। So then what happened is we thought that अगर हम लोगों को ये सस्पेंशन मिल जाएगा कि from the date of cancellation till the date of cancellation order, the date of application for cancellation, from till the date of cancellation order, हम लोगों को कोई भी compliance नहीं रहेगा. We will neither raise the tax invoice, but we also don't have to file a returns. We don't have to file the returns. Return और cancellation application तक ही file करना पड़ेगा. और अगर by any chance say the cancellation application gets rejected, then I get to file all the returns from the back date, and I have to fulfill my compliance, which is a very rare situation. In most of the situations, we see that the cancellation applications are approved. So in that case, what happens if your registration is suspended, then the obligation on the legal heir is that they cannot make any taxable supply. Here by taxable supply, we mean we cannot issue any tax invoice, okay, during the period of suspension, and shall not be required to furnish any return under section 39. So even if the gap between the filing of the application, the date when the application is being considered, even if there is a gap of 7 to 8 months, in 7 to 8 months का मुझे return file नहीं करना पड़ेगा. A registered person shall not make taxable supplies means shall not issue tax invoice and shall not charge tax accordingly during the pendency of the proceedings related to the cancellation of the registration. So एक obligation हम लोगों का है कि हम लोग टैक्स इनवॉइस नहीं रेज कर सकते हैं, टैक्स कलेक्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं, और एक रिलीफ हम लोगों का है कि हम लोगों को रिटर्न भी फाइल नहीं करना पड़ेगा. नाउ कमिंग टू द नेक्स्ट थिंग, क्वेरीज. ठीक है, चलो मेरा सस्पेंशन में था, मैंने रिटर्न भी फाइल नहीं किया, बट अभी one fine morning I see that I get a mail saying that there is a show cause notice issued against my cancellation application. So इसमें मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? So legal heir, the first thing we do with any kind of show cause notice, show cause notice is primarily a communication from the learned proper officer asking us as to why, a particular reason, whether it's contravention of law or, something which we have not done, which we are supposed to be doing, which we have not done, then why the cancellation order should not be rejected. That is the, that would be one of the reasons of the show cause notice. And normally the show cause notice, what is given is that what we have seen, I'm not saying that this is the whole universe of all the reasons that can happen. This is not the whole category. But what we have seen in typically the show cause notices in case of death of proprietor is that they ask for the indemnity certificate primarily because they know that कल अगर एक बार कैंसिल हो गया तो लीगल हेयर अगर पैसा सब उड़ा फिर इसमें क्या होगा, कौन लायबिलिटी लेगा वगैरह. So that thing comes in. Apart from that, they also ask for copy of closure of the business. इसका they need a proof कि हाँ भाई तुमने ट्रेड लाइसेंस सरेंडर कर दिया है. I know you have given the death certificate, but इसका proof कहाँ है कि तुमने बिजनेस बंद कर दिया. You don't want to continue. वो कहाँ पे है? Okay, and apart from that, they can also ask for surrender of your tenancy rights and surrender of PTAX documents. In some cases, they have asked us that you give us a ledger balance, okay, or with your main customers, where there is a B2B business. We have been asked to give ledger balance to the customers, which is showing that from the date of death till the date of cancellation or till the date the learned officer is asking, has sent the show cause notice, there is no business with the particular customer, or we have been asked to give all the bank statements that we have to prove that no bank deposits were made during the period. So whatever document or in some cases we have been asked to give the balance sheets of the last 2 years, Okay, and the invoices also of some periods to show actually, what was the invoice, whether it has been properly. See, because friends, we need to understand that we are professionals. We are working with n number of clients. We are busy. I am sure we all are busy, and that is good to be busy by God's grace. But the thing is that also the learned officers need to be sure that once they issue the cancellation order, tomorrow there is no review of that particular order which says that this particular thing was not seen, or some other audit team coming in and saying that ye bhi aapko dekhna chahiye tha. So that's why in case of cancellation of, mainly in other cancellations also, but in the case of cancellation of legal heirs, they try to be double sure, because यहाँ पे क्या है कि already the deceased proprietor is not there. We are treating with the legal heir, and so we need to be serious about collecting all whatever government revenue is due and paid. So whatever notice, whatever the documents or information are sought in the so-called notice, let us submit them within the due dates that are given so that the applications can be evaluated and the order can be passed. So what are the actions to be taken after the cancellation order is received? So now I had filed the cancellation order. Then there was suspended. Then I got the show cause notice. I filed the reply to the show cause notice. Now, finally, we have got the cancellation order in our hands. So, iske baad, what are the obligations? It's a general obligation that we have for all the cancellation, which is 3 months, within 3 months from the date of cancellation or date of cancellation, order of cancellation, whichever is later, we need to file the final return with the department. And so, what are the documents and information which are filed in GST 10 as per section 45? They are basically the GST is given the legal name, application reference number is always there, and whether cancellation order has been passed. Here, of course, since it's a voluntary cancellation, we have to mention that it's a voluntary cancellation by the department and all, and the order details are given. And still, even if after the cancellation we have the stock of closing stock and is lying with us, and the amount of tax paid on the closing stock, that also, that those details have to be given in the GST at 10. So now the next question which comes to us is, sir, मैंने तो सोचा था कि cancellation order मेरे मेल पे आ गया है, तो मेरा काम खत्म, इसके बाद तो मुझे नहीं कुछ करना पड़ेगा, तो इसके लिए मैंने आपको फोन भी नहीं किया और मैंने आपको बताया भी नहीं कि cancellation order आ गया. So this gentleman comes to me after 3 months and he says that अभी तो सर मेरा फाइल नहीं हुआ है, but suddenly I am seeing some GST, ASMT 13 coming to me, that I have not filed some return. So we need to understand that if I'm not filing the return within the due date, then what happens is I am a defaulter as per section 62, okay, and the department, based on the information and documents available with them, the proper officer may assess the tax and show me the order, which is ASMT 13. And if I file the order and if I file the return within 30 days from the order, then all the proceedings will be deemed to be dropped. Why do I discuss this point here? I discuss this point here because in other cases of cancellation, we rarely face this challenge, because the businessman, he or she, is not comfortable till she knows that abhi mujhe aur kuch nahi karna padega. So as soon as they get the cancellation order, they come to us and they tell ki sir abhi kya agla step kya hai, kya karna padega, iske baad khatam hai ki nahi hai. But in case of death of the proprietor, we see that the legal heirs, due to the lack of knowledge or due to their lot of priorities that they have, they kind of forget to inform the consultants or the compliance, the person who is doing the compliance, that sir, mera cancellation order aa gaya, abhi mujhe kya karna hai. So we need to make it sure, we need to tell them, agar ye aata hai to fir ye bhi file karna padega, and then the closure of the chapter happens. Okay, so now the next thing is that cancellation हो गया, सब कुछ हो गया, मैंने फाइनल रिटर्न भी डाल दिया, अभी और मेरे पास और कुछ है नहीं, बट सडनली अभी मेरा 5-6 महीने के बाद या पकड़ो 1 साल के बाद मेरे पास एक शो कॉज नोटिस आता है और बोला जाता है कि आपने ये आईटीसी लिया था. एंड व्हाटएवर आई एम टेलिंग यू फ्रेंड्स, दिस इज रियल, ऑल आर रियल लाइफ केसेस. Only thing is, because of the confidential agreement that I have with my clients, I cannot mention their names. So, or I would have told you the name, but that doesn't hold any purpose. But these are all real life situations. What had happened is, the son suddenly gets a show cause notice saying that you had availed ITC, this ITC of 8 lakhs odd from this particular company, GST number bearing this and this, and they had already suo motu cancelled from 1/7/2017. उनका जो भी था उन्होंने कैंसिलेशन कर दिया था फ्रॉम 1/7/2017, बट इसके बाद भी उन्होंने आपको दिसंबर 2017 में आपको मटेरियल सेल किया है एंड फरवरी 2018 में मटेरियल सेल किया है बाय चार्जिंग जीएसटी. Okay, by charging GST. So this is a case of fake billing, and so what we feel is that this ITC needs to be reversed. So of course, nobody is going to use the word fake billing. They will always mention that this is a case of suo motu cancellation from date of from the date of incorporation of starting of GST. So whatever bills has been given after 1/7/2017, those are neither valid and those are not tax invoices actually, because once your registration is not there, you cannot file any, you cannot issue any tax invoice. So इसमें क्या करेंगे? मेरे पास मतलब जो लीगल एयर है, इनके पास 8 लाख का एक डिमांड आ गया, एंड 8 लाख इज द प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट ऑफ आईटीसी, एंड इसके बाद जो इंटरेस्ट है, पेनल्टी है, इतना पैसा भरेंगे कहां से, राइट? सो दैट इज द मेन टेंशन जो उनके पास पहले आता है. तो जब भी ऐसा होता है तो हम लोगों को पहले जो देखना पड़ेगा कि what is the state of the deceased person providing to this particular person. And if you want to know what is the state providing, then you can understand that you just need to go and see the succession certificate in some cases wherein the details of the assets and liabilities are given. Or in other cases, normally we have the balance sheet of the proprietor drawn on the date of the death. उसमें रहता है कि ऐसा है, ऐसा नहीं है, जो भी है, फिक्स डिपॉजिट्स है, assets है, क्या है, वो डिटेल्स इतना है, तो उसमें से इतना ही पैसा है जो कि लीगल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव को मिला है. So whatever may be the case, we need to understand that what is the extent of amount that can be claimed basis the amount that is available in the state. उतना का ही liability हम लोग pay कर सकते हैं to the department, and beyond that nothing can be enforced on the legal representative. So we need to be very clear about this, because in some cases I have seen show cause notices wherein they are saying that we'll do recovery and we'll do your bank attachment of the legal representatives and all. I'm telling you, as per friends, as per the law, maybe that is not legally viable, because the law clearly envisages this situation कि ऐसा हो सकता है. The deceased proprietor, he has left a liability of maybe 30 lakhs in taxes, and in his assets he had only 10 lakhs. So, it's not that the legal representative has to pay all the 30 lakhs in liabilities. He can pay only the amount that is available from the assets and liabilities of the net assets of the deceased person. So, if you are getting a show cause notice, which is relating to the deceased proprietor, let us not get worried. Let us try to understand and reply to the show cause notice based on the evidences available, based on the information available. Just in case mein jo hai, we fought with a lot of cases saying that, sir, I have the bill, I have the transport document, I have the e-way bill, I have made the payment to him. So iske baad aap kaise, and my total ITC during the year is more than 3 crores. And how can you pinpoint out of those 3 crores that this 8 lakhs is fake and you're asking me to reverse it? Where is it that I have gone wrong? I have not gone wrong. It is that person who, after cancellation of his registration, has actually issued to me the invoices. And we have also shown that the person has also filed his GST 1 and 3 before that particular period. So after this, how can you say that this ITC is wrongly or erroneously taken by me and I have to reverse this along with interest and penalty? So we fought the thing and we are still fighting. We don't know what will be the outcome of the thing. But what I'm trying to say is 2 things. First thing is, just because it's a case of the disease provider, let's not say that we don't have the information and the documents, we can't fight. Let's take out the documents. Let's really encourage and motivate the legal heir, telling him that अगर हम लोग ठीक से fight करेंगे शायद कुछ भी नहीं देना पड़ेगा. तो आप इसको ढूंढिए कहाँ पे है, डॉक्यूमेंट्स वगैरह इंफॉर्मेशन कहाँ है, आप ढूंढिए, उसको लाइए, तो हम लोग इसके लिए फाइट कर सकते हैं. And second thing is, remember about the limit to which the legal heir is legally liable. So with this discussion of FAQ 13, we are through with the option 1, wherein the legal heir has thought कि मुझे काम नहीं करना, आगे नहीं करना है, मैं I am head of some IT company or some this manufacturing company or something like that, and मुझे अपने मतलब family का काम आगे नहीं बढ़ाना है. Now coming to the second situation, wherein the legal heir, he or she wants to continue with the same business going forward. ओके, तो इसमें उनको क्या करना पड़ेगा? तो again, as per section 93(1) of CGST Act 2017, it says that other than IBC cases, wherein a liability is arising on the death of a person, if the business carried on by the person is continued after his death by his legal representative or any other person. Okay. So here in case other than legal representative, it can be the employee also who is carrying on the business. Such legal representative or any other person shall be liable to pay tax, interest, or penalty due from such person under this act. And whether such tax, interest, or penalty has been determined before his death but has remained unpaid or is determined after his death, that is not relevant. So, friends, we need to understand and differentiate this situation from the earlier situation. जहाँ पे कि डिसकंटिन्यू होता है वहां पे लिमिटेशन है उनका स्टेट में जो प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, मतलब उनका जो नेट एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज है वहां तक हम लोगों का लायबिलिटी है. बट जब हम कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं बिजनेस को वहां पे कोई लिमिटेशन नहीं है लायबिलिटी, इट्स ओपन एंडेड थिंग. देन if tomorrow you get a huge show cause notice for something which was payable by the deceased proprietor, then it becomes your liability to pay off that amount or to fight that amount. In that case, since it is the same business, see in the earlier case there is a stoppage of the business, but in this particular case it is nothing but the purana business जो है उसी को हम लोग आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं. So there is it's kind of a going concern concept only, which we'll see in some time. So it's a kind of a going concern concept. तो उसमें जो है कि एसेट भी पुराना आगे आ रहा है और लायबिलिटी भी पुराना आगे आ रहा है. तो एसेट भी आप जब ले रहे हो अपने बिजनेस में टू कंटिन्यू, लायबिलिटी को भी पूरा पूरा आपको लेना पड़ेगा. तो अगर कल डिजीज प्रोवाइडर का कुछ भी लायबिलिटी आता है डिपार्टमेंट के साइड से, तो वो आप ही का लायबिलिटी बन जाता है. मतलब जो लीगल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है या फिर एनी अदर पर्सन, हियर एनी अदर पर्सन, बिकॉज इन सम केसेस वी हैव सीन दैट it is one of the employees who is taking in this responsibility कि ठीक है चलो हम बिजनेस को आगे बढ़ाएंगे और कोई नहीं है तो हम करेंगे क्योंकि बिजनेस बहुत बढ़िया है. इनफैक्ट इन वन ऑफ द स्वीट शॉप्स इन one of the leading sweet shops in Calcutta, they have a group, it's a group and they have around 6 to 7 shops outlets. So there it has happened that the proprietor has passed away, his daughter is married and she is not interested in this business. So she told that I don't know, whatever you want to do, you do, because I'm not going to be taking care of all these liabilities and all these things. What is going to be there? PF का है, GST है, ये है, वो मैं कुछ नहीं करूँगा. So in that case, one of the oldest employees who was there, he came forward and he's taking on the mantle of the business and he has taken the registration and he's carrying on the entire business. So in this case, the first question that comes is what actually needs to be done when I want to continue this business. So for the sake of our entire discussion, I will assume that the business has been taken over by the legal representative of the business provider. So that will for the sake of convenience. But everything is equally applicable to any other person also. So यहाँ पे क्या करना पड़ेगा उनको? They have to apply for a fresh registration in the name of the legal heir, subject to information and documents, along with the reason for transfer of business due to death of sole proprietor. So यहाँ पे जो हो रहा है, the legal representative, they are going to apply for a new business, new registration, and there you have to there you will get a drop down. You will get the place for a reason. In the reason place, you can write transfer of business due to death of sole proprietor. वो देना पड़ेगा, right? So once you apply for the fresh registration, then what happens is that you can actually apply. You can file the ITC 02, जहाँ पे आपका वो ITC रहेगा, and then the ITC 02 can be accepted by the by the new business which is being getting the registration. And once ITC 02 flows from the old business to the new business, then you can file for the old business, the legal representative can file the cancellation application. In the first part of the deliberation, I have already discussed that for the legal representatives, what are the steps they need to do is that I've already discussed. So I'll just I'll just take you through the journey once again for just 2 minutes. So if you're the legal representative and you want to go for a cancellation of the registration because you are transferring the entire business to the new business, first thing is you need to understand and see whether all the returns are filed or not. And if you have the user ID and password, you log in and check the return status. If you don't have the password, you go to the search as taxpayer tab. which is available on the GST portal. On the face of it, it's available. उसमें आप जाके आप GST नंबर डाल दो. जैसे आप GST नंबर डालोगे of the disease provider, उनका jurisdiction से लेके उनका filing का status पूरा आ जाएगा. फिर आप उनके jurisdiction officer के पास जाओ with the death certificate of the deceased, ID proof of the disease, ID proof of the legal representative, which shows a connect between the deceased and the legal representative, if there is any connect, and the evidence is saying that the the person is going to actually take over this particular business. So that evidence is normally there in the form of the new registration that has been taken by the legal representative. तो ये सब लेके आपको जाना पड़ेगा to the proper officer of the deceased person's registration. The proper officer will go through the documents, ask for further documents if any, and then after his satisfaction, he's going to issue you a new link through which you can change the authorized signatory, and based on that authorized signatory change, you can actually file all this ITC 02 and the cancellation application from the ID of the old registration. And when you are filing the cancellation application for the disease provider, you need to remember that you have to give in the reason as death of the sole proprietor. That reason is given, it has been given as a reason out there in the drop down, you will get as a reason. And when you're filing your RDG 16, you just need to give death of the sole proprietor. So what are the procedures to be taken if the legal heir wants to continue the business? It's the same, just he's liable to be. Here, one thing we need to understand that when the legal heir is taking over the business, he has to give the reason as death of the proprietor, which I've already mentioned. And here, there is a place for date, date from when the business has commenced, or date from which the liability is arriving. So here we need to give the date as date of the death of the deceased proprietor as the date when he is liable to be registered. Please, friends, keep this in mind, because in many cases wherein we have seen litigations, as I am fighting one of the litigations recently in Jharkhand, wherein we have seen that the problem was that the new registration was taken after 1 year, and when it was taken, the reason was not given as the death of the proprietor. Secondly, they have taken the date of liability as the date after 1 year. So in this case, when you transfer the property after 1 year, it really becomes a challenge to establish the facts that yes, this transfer is as a going concern, because all this has a legal implication, which we are going to discuss after some time. This putting of the date also has a legal implication from the point of view of the liability, because section 24 says that you have to take the registration as soon as you are liable for registration. You are liable for registration in this case if you are planning to continue the business as soon on the date of death of the deceased proprietor. So this is RAG 01. I would not like to discuss this because this is there and it is very basic thing which we are always doing. But yes, after the other authentication thing has come, I think it's a bit of change. Now we need to remember that जिनका number और email ID हम लोग authorized signatory के वहाँ पे देंगे, उनका ही email ID और number से हम लोगों को TRN generate करना चाहिए. These are some of the small tips that I would get from my filing team. They are telling कि सर नहीं तो इसमें problem होता है कि बाद में वो conflict हो रहा है. अगर मैंने TRN किसी email ID और number से generate किया है और authorized signatory जिनको मैं कर रहा हूँ उनका email ID और number अगर दूसरा है तो उसमें दिखा रहा है कि duplication हो रहा है numbers का. तो इसलिए the best thing is आप जिसको सोच रहे हो कि जिनके email ID और मतलब नंबर पे आप जिनको ऑथराइज सिग्नेटरी करोगे उन्हीं के नंबर पे आप टीआरएन भी उनके नंबर पे आप जनरेट करो व्हेन यू आर डूइंग अ न्यू रजिस्ट्रेशन. Okay, coming back to topic of today, which is what are the documents required for filing ITC 02. As per rule 41(2), basically they need to submit a CA certificate or a certificate from a CMA certifying that the transfer of business has been done with a specific provision of transfer of liabilities. Because 18(3), I will just guide it in the following slides only. So for the time being, we need to understand कि जब death of the proprietor हो रहा है, उनके books पे assets भी है, liabilities भी है और ITC भी पड़ा हुआ है. और जो legal representative है, उनको क्या है, उनको business आगे बढ़ा के लेके जाना है. तो इसलिए वो assets लेंगे. But ऐसा ना हो कि वो सिर्फ assets ही लेंगे और liabilities को नहीं लेंगे. उन्होंने बता दिया कि भाई लाइबिलिटीज जो है ना वो पुराना कंपनी जो भी है वो ही करेगा, वो हैंडल करेगा, हम तो सिर्फ जो बिल्डिंग है या फिर अगर उनका कोई टेबल चेयर कुछ भी रहा तो वो हम लोग लेंगे, कंप्यूटर वगैरह है तो सिर्फ हम उसको ही लेंगे, हम लाइबिलिटीज को अपने यहाँ पे जिम्मेदारी हम लोग नहीं लेंगे. तो इन दिस सिचुएशन इफ द the legal representative is taking only the assets and not the liabilities, then in that case the ITC cannot be transferred to the new business. Please remember this, friends. You get the ITC when you take everything, together, when you're taking the assets and the liabilities. So there should be a specific provision in the entire discussion that that all the liabilities of the deceased proprietor will also be transferred to the new business. Only then and then, in that case, the ITC of the deceased proprietor can be transferred to the new business. So, as I was just sharing that in the next slide, I'll discuss this, that what is the precondition for the transfer of the ITC. In terms of section 18.3, if you have the Barrett with you, maybe you can go through it, but still this from Barrett only. In terms of section 18.3, kya hai ki when there is a change in the constitution of the registered person on account of sale, merger, demerger, and all those things, lease, transfer of the business with the specific provision for transfer of liabilities, the said person shall be allowed to transfer the input tax credit which remains unutilized in the electronic credit ledger to such sold, merged, demerged, amalgamated, leased, or transferred business in the manner prescribed in CGST rules or SGST rules 2017 by declaring the same electronically on the common portal in GST ITC 02. So, friends, you see that the transfer of ITC, okay, of the disease can only be done when you are transferring the liabilities also. You please try to remember this. Why am I harping on this point? Why am I repeating this point, or why am I telling these points? Because these are the pain points which we are facing in the course of litigation. हम लोगों के पास केस आया है जहां पे कि जो लीगल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, she has taken only the assets. ओके, उनको वो मतलब पूरा सब कुछ जो फर्नीचर फिक्सचर है, लैपटॉप है, सिस्टम्स है, उन्होंने सारा सब कुछ ले लिया है, बट लाइबिलिटी का जो भी था, मतलब से द क्रेडिटर्स थोड़ा बहुत था और फिर कुछ अनपेड एक्सपेंसेस वगैरह कुछ है, ये जो भी था उन्होंने उसको पेमेंट नहीं किया और उसको वो लाइबिलिटीज को उनके बुक्स पे भी नहीं ट्रांसफर किया. बट reading from Google or somewhere, she knew that ITC 02 can be filed and can be transferred. And somehow, she got the things and signed and all, and she filed the ITC 02 in the account of the deceased proprietor, and she got it transferred to her account. ITC अच्छा खासा था, 2.5-3 लाख का, तो उन्होंने वो यूटिलाइज कर लिया. बट जब कल डिपार्टमेंट ने किसी कारण से डिपार्टमेंट में ITC 02 का कुछ रिव्यू चल रहा था, जब उन्होंने देखा वहां पे कि उन्होंने बोला कि ठीक है, आपका ये जो है आपने क्या टर्म्स पे, उन्होंने सोचा था कि किसी बिजनेस खरीदा है, तो उन्होंने बताया कि आप वो जो MOU है या फिर टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस है वो आप हम लोग को दो, आपका जो बैलेंस शीट है जो आपने ट्रांसफर किया दो. तो उसमें जब देखे पता चला कि डिजीज प्रोवाइडर का लाइबिलिटी जैसा था वैसे ही है, उन्होंने वो कैंसिल वगैरह कर दिया, बट उन्होंने लाइबिलिटी को ट्रांसफर नहीं किया, सिर्फ एसेट्स को उनके बुक्स में ले लिए. तो तब उनका ये ITC जो है डिसअलाउ हो गया, राइट. तो ये जो सिचुएशंस है, यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस आर वेरी प्राइमरी एंड वेरी सिंपल, कुछ भी नहीं है, बट इफ दे आर नॉट फॉलोड प्रॉपर्ली देन देयर आर रिपरकशंस लेटर. And since the legal representatives in most of the cases, they are not, with the business bent of mind, they're not coming with the business bent of mind, is because of some unfortunate event or some eventuality or some accident that they're forced to get into the business. They don't have all this business acumen कि मुझे ये करना है, legal formalities, compliance जो follow कर रहा है. So it is our responsibility as professionals to make them aware कि भैया अगर आपको ITC transfer करना है तो उसके लिए आपको ये follow करना पड़ेगा. So what is the process of transfer of ITC? Just file the ITC 02 from the account of the deceased proprietor, considering the unutilized ITC with the CA certificate. It gets transferred to the new business. The new business will, in the new registration, it will be accepted. And once it is accepted, it will be transferred to the electronic credit ledger of the new business. It's as simple as that. This is ITC 02 form. And the ITC match to be transferred. This is very important because कहीं पे ऐसा होता है कि आईटीसी मेरे बुक्स में है, बट तो आईटीसी की अभी मैचिंग नहीं हुआ है 2A में, दिखाया नहीं है. So normally you cannot transfer that if that particular time has lapsed. So what we do is we just try to see what are the ITCs that is matched, and that much of ITC is being transferred to the new person. So in this case, there were several doubts that were being raised that 18.3, whether 18.3 can be followed in the case of death of a proprietor or not. क्योंकि यहाँ पे तो सेल मर्जर वगैरह कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, तो यहाँ पे कैसे हो सकता है कि प्रोप्राइटर गुजर गए हैं, उनका जो आईटीसी है वो नया बिजनेस में ट्रांसफर हो सकता है, यहाँ पे तो सेल नहीं हो रहा है. तो फॉर दिस पर्पस, दिस सर्कुलर which you can all note it down, it is 96 of 2019. Herein the department has clarified that in this case also section 18.3 will be applicable, and you can always transfer the good, transfer the ITC. And in the second para, if you see, they have just mentioned, as per sub-rule 1 of Rule 41, CGST rules, the registered person, transferor of business, can file Form ITC 02 electronically on the government portal, along with the transfer for request of unutilized input tax credit lying in the electronic credit ledger to the transfer. So it is beyond any doubt that 18.3 can actually be applied. इसके पहले भी apply हम लोग कर रहे थे, but there are a lot of doubts in the industry and there are different schools of thought. Just to put every controversy to rest, this particular circular was issued. Now the next question is, can a legal heir transfer the excess unutilized electronic cash balance to his new entity in case of death of sole proprietor? Okay, so friends, this was also a practical question which was being raised. But as I'm sharing, all these FAQs are based on practical questions that we have got from our clients. We have this habit of, I have this habit of writing down the new queries that I get from different corners, so that when I make any presentation or for any deliberation or any article for any of the publications, then it becomes a fruitful one wherein I can, get in all the practical questions that have been faced by the trade. So this question is that, in the case of the deceased proprietor, I'm having, say, about 3 lakhs in the electronic cash ledger balance. That may be because of some error or whatever may be the reason. But after paying all the liabilities and all, जो भी है, आज के दिन में वो पैसा पड़ा हुआ है वहाँ पे. So can that amount also be transferred to the, to the new entity, जो legal heir का जो अभी नया registration लिया है? Can we transfer it there? That was a question that was asked. Unfortunately, no. We cannot transfer this unutilized cash ledger balance to the registration, new registration. But yes, what we can do, as we have discussed in the previous session, in the first part of the discussion, that if there is any unutilized cash balance left over after making payment of all taxes, interest, penalty, whatever is there, that amount can be claimed by the old registration, the registration of the deceased. In that registration, you can always claim it as refund as excess cash balance in electronic cash ledger. And we have also got the refund. So I'm hopeful that you all can also get it if it's genuinely available for any of your clients, in this particular situation. But the only thing is that please tell them that वो पैसा एक registration से दूसरे registration में transfer कभी नहीं होता है. आपको भले ही refund मिल जाए पैसा. How the cancellation application need to be filed by the legal heir as per section 29. This we have already discussed in the first part, that file all the pending returns. Okay, then file the cancellation application. And then once the cancellation application is filed, then rule 22.3 will be followed. Will be issued a show cause notice. And if we give all the proper replies to show cause notice and it is satisfied, then the cancellation order comes. And just put to rest every doubt that in this case business करने वाला कोई दूसरा था, जो प्रोप्राइटर है, जो आज के दिन में गुजर गए हैं. अभी जो कैंसलेशन फाइल कर रहा है वो दूसरा आदमी है, दूसरा आदमी जो कि अपना लीगल हेयर है. तो whether that is allowed as per law or no. So just to bring that into clarity, rule 22.5 we can refer, which says that rule 22.3 ka whatever is applicable, it also applied to the legal heirs of the deceased proprietor, as if the application has been filed by the proprietor himself. So if there is a show cause notice issued in the name of the legal heir, in the name of the deceased proprietor, it can be answered by the legal heir, saying that he is the legal heir, he or she is the legal heir, and giving the reply. So these are the documents that need to be submitted along with the cancellation application, which is the death certificate, the identity proof, proof of the business closure, Proof of business, we have already discussed trade license, other labor license and all those things. Proof of bank closure, that I've already closed the bank on the old account, जो भी है. Indemnity certificate. तो देखिए यहाँ पे जो है, I'll tell you friends very honestly, in the case where the business is being transferred from the deceased proprietor to the new registration, इसमें indemnity certificate काफी कम पूछा जाता है. इसका कारण यही है कि as per law, section 93(1) subclause B clearly says कि भाई अगर आप पुराना बिजनेस को आप आगे बढ़ा रहे हो, उसका जो भी लाइबिलिटी है वो आज के दिन में आपकी लाइबिलिटी बन सकता है. तो इसलिए इसमें कोई डाउट ही नहीं है कि जो लीगल एयर है, कंटिन्यूइंग द बिजनेस, it is his liability to pay any liability that is going to accrue or arise to the deceased proprietor. तो इसमें indemnity certificate काफी कम पूछा जाता है. Finally, details of stock held on the date of death. ये तो क्योंकि हम लोग ट्रांसफर कर ले रहे हैं सारा का सारा, because it's a case where we are transferring the business. Normally, the details, we don't have to pay any taxes on this, because whatever stock was there on the date of death, that has been transferred, that has been transferred to the new business. Okay, so another thing is that in case of death of the sole proprietor, the application can also be made manually by the legal heir or successor before the authorities. But to be very frank, friends, in most of the cases, the proper officers are not very comfortable with the manual applications. Reason being that it is very difficult to keep in track, because once it is online, it is there on the dashboards. They can see that this pending. They can send the queries, get the replies. It's a very faster process. And with COVID-19 coming into the picture, I think even that's a more better reason as to why everything should be filed online. So within how many days the application for cancellation needs to be filed? This we have discussed that 30 days is the time limit as per rule 20. But as we all know, इसमें time लग जाता है, death certificate, the proofs, the documents, and then the final rights and all the practical problems are there. So इसमें अगर 30 days से ज़्यादा भी है, we have not faced any problem as of now. Nobody has raised this question. Considering humanitarian grounds, that it's logically not be possible in many cases to file the cancellation application in 30 days, and more so in cases wherein I'm getting the new registration done and then I'm filing the ITC 02, then I'm getting the cancellation done. So उसमें तो और भी थोड़ा difficulty है. So this is RAG 16 again that we had just discussed there. The 10th is if the cancellation application is filed, is anything else need to be done? About suspension of GST registration, whatever we have discussed in the following situation is the same here. We need to remember that we cannot issue, being a taxpayer, we cannot issue any tax invoice, and we cannot collect any tax. That is a obligation, the responsibility from our side. Okay, as per rule 3 of sub rule 3 of rule 21A, and our relief to us is that we don't need to file any returns under section 39. So, we just don't need to file any return because the entire period, starting from the date of filing of cancellation application to the date of cancellation order, is considered to be the date, to be suspension of registration. So, इसमें कुछ भी अपना वो liability obligation नहीं रहता. तो FAQ 11 जो है कि सपोज अभी हम लोग बात किया है कि मैंने एक शोकॉज हम लोगों को मिला है ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ सबमिशन ऑफ कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन, जो हो सकता है कि देयर आस्किंग द लर्नड ऑफिसर इज आस्किंग फॉर सम डॉक्यूमेंट्स, फॉर सम इंफॉर्मेशन. हो सकता है कि ओके यू हैव ट्रांसफर्ड द you are transferring the business, as I can see from the application, you are transferring the business to the new business. So please can you tell me what is the latest balance sheet of the proprietor, so that I can see whether you are transferring everything to your new business or not. So they can ask for all these things. Apart from that, what we are seeing is that they're asking for the bank statements basically. After the death of the proprietor, whether you have done business in that particular account, even after that and received money in that, and if yes, whether tax has been actually paid on that. क्योंकि कभी-कभी ऐसा हो सकता है कि in case of service we have faced the situation. Suppose in case of interior designer, we had actually faced the practical situation wherein the person, okay, he had given the services and all, but उसका billing नहीं हुआ था, and suddenly he passed away because of some unfortunate event. एंड उसका बिलिंग नहीं हुआ था, तो उनका जो मतलब लीगल एयर जो थे, उन्होंने फिर वो सारा बिल किया, एंड बिल करने के बाद उनका वो पैसा मिला उनको. एंड so in this case what happened is that there was this business even after the death of the proprietor. So, but and we had to do that business because तब तक वो नया business भी चालू नहीं कर पाए हम लोग, registration भी नहीं हो रहा था because there are some documentation issues and all. तो वो सब करके फिर हम लोग करना था. तो in the meantime वो date of death के बाद भी कुछ किया है. तो इसमें हम लोगों ने क्या किया था, उसमें रिटर्न में दिखा के उसको हम लोगों ने टैक्स पेमेंट कर दिया था. So that is something they check, that whether after the date of death any amount has been received by the legal heir, and if yes, whether the taxes has been paid. So if any of our clients get a show cause notice in relation to the application, as it happens with any other application, we just need to furnish our replies properly. And once we furnish the replies properly, I hope the cancellation order will be in process. So finally, we have submitted our replies. Learned officer has given the cancellation order, and we are thinking about, okay, or kya baki, what is the next step after this? So as we discussed, GST 10 has to be filed, and we have 3 months time, either from the date of cancellation or date of order of cancellation, which is later, to file this GST 10. And it's a very basic document which contains all this data. कि कब actually हम लोगों ने cancel किया है, and cancellation order का details क्या है, and date, or what are the stocks that we have on that particular date, and whether we have paid any taxes or not. It's basically, to me, I feel whenever I have dealt any webinar on GST 10, we had a webinar recently, basically, on the first return and the last return. It was titled as the first return and the last return. So वहाँ पे क्योंकि first return में भी काफी सारा rules रहता है कि जैसे कि suppose okay, I'll discuss about the first return. In this case only, what will happen? Suppose ऐसा हुआ है कि date of death of the proprietor हो गया है on maybe say 1st of September, and the proprietor, the legal heir, he has taken a new registration. But in between the death of the proprietor and taking the new registration, what has happened is there were some businesses that were continuing. क्योंकि देखिए सर्विस इंडस्ट्री में ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होगा कि काम रोक दे सकते हैं. अगर ऐसा कुछ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस है तो उसमें क्या होता है कि ठीक है, चलो मतलब ये तो इवेंट जो था वो होना था, हो गया, बट बिजनेस को तो आगे लेके जाना है. तो सपोज द लीगल एयर इज एक्चुअली कंटिन्यूइंग इन दिस केस ऑफ इंटीरियर डिजाइनिंग बिजनेस. तो उसमें क्या इंटीरियर डिजाइनिंग चल रहा है, पेंटिंग, फर्निशिंग, फ्लोरिंग एंड सैनिटेशन, ऑल थिंग्स, ये सब चल रहा है, तो बीच में तो रोक नहीं सकते ना. तो एक मोमेंट तक, एक पॉइंट तक क्या हुआ था कि सपोज उनके पिताजी के नाम पे पूरा का पूरा बिलिंग जो है हो गया. अभी नया जो रजिस्ट्रेशन लिया है उनके बेटे के नाम पे, वो रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने में सपोज कुछ टाइम लग रहा है. तो इन बिटवीन जो है हम लोगों ने कुछ वो एडवांसेस कलेक्ट किया है. इन बिटवीन जो है हम लोगों ने कुछ इनवॉइसेस उनको देना था, ठीक है, क्योंकि विदाउट इनवॉइसेस वो हम लोगों को पेमेंट नहीं कर सकते हैं. तो इसमें हम लोग क्या करेंगे, इसमें हम लोग इनवॉइस इशू करेंगे, बट नॉट अ टैक्स इनवॉइस. So suppose 1st September is the date of death of the proprietor, and I am issuing an invoice on 10th of September. Okay, and I have not got and the legal heir has not got the registration as of now. तो उसमें क्या करेंगे, he will just issue a simple invoice, और उनको अगर वो एडवांस मिल रहा है तो एडवांस वो ले लेंगे. लेके अभी suppose he gets registration only on maybe I'll say 10th. ऐसे on 1st of November उनको मिलता है. So 10 सितंबर को उन्होंने बिल रेज किया, अक्टूबर पे चला गया, अक्टूबर में उनको जाके मतलब रजिस्ट्रेशन का वो नहीं मिला, उनको ऑर्डर नहीं मिला बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड एंड बिकॉज ऑफ व्हाटएवर द सिचुएशन. फाइनली उनको रजिस्ट्रेशन का ऑर्डर मिला है 1st November, बट विद इफेक्ट फ्रॉम 1st September. Effective from 1st September. Why? Because as I shared, in this particular case, जहाँ पे हम लोग business continue कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे date of registration and the date of liability of registration will be the date of death of the deceased proprietor, because we are continuing that particular business. तो इसमें क्या होगा, जो नया registration हम लोगों ने, जो बेटा ने जो नया registration, legal heir ने जो नया registration दिया है, उसमें वो 1st November के date पे एक invoice issue करेंगे, saying for that particular invoice जो पहले उन्होंने issue किया था on 10th November, उसका वो tax invoice issue करेंगे. You will charge the tax and he can again issue the invoice to the particular party, and the particular person, since that person has paid only the net amount, has not paid the tax, they can pay the tax, and this particular invoice has to be shown in the first return of the particular registration. So for the first return, please refer to section 40, wherein we'll get all the details. मतलब यहाँ पे आपको जो दिखाना है कि आपने जब से आपने आपका लाइबिलिटी बना है, यहाँ पे क्या है, जिस दिन डेट ऑफ डेथ ऑफ प्रोप्राइटर है उसी दिन लाइबिलिटी बन गया नया रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए. सो जिस दिन से आपका लाइबिलिटी बना है, जहां जिस दिन तक आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट मिला है, इस बीच का पीरियड में अगर आपने किसी को इनवॉइस इश्यू किया है या कोई भी अमाउंट आपको एडवांस के हिसाब से मिला है, इसके ऊपर आप जिस महीने में आपको जाके रजिस्ट्रेशन मिल रहा है, क्योंकि अभी उनको जाके 1 नवंबर में रजिस्ट्रेशन मिला है, तो उस महीने का वो इनवॉइस रेज करेंगे. उसी डेट पे 1 नवंबर को एक इनवॉइस रेज करेंगे, जहां पे कि वो अमाउंट तो वो 10 सितंबर वाला ही देंगे, उस पर टैक्स जोड़ के वो बिल करेंगे, तो कस्टमर जो है उनको टैक्स का अमाउंट दे देंगे. ओके. और जो एडवांस इनको मिला था, उस एडवांस पे भी, क्योंकि इट्स एडवांस ऑन सर्विसेज, उस पे भी वो नवंबर महीने के 3B में वो टैक्स भर देंगे. So friends, as I was just discussing, so this is about the first return जो इनके पास मिलेगा. And about the last return also we need to remember, last return is the last opportunity for you to cleanse all your problems. So अगर ऐसा कुछ लगता है कि पुराना कोई भी टैक्स, कोई आउटपुट टैक्स आपसे छूट गया है, या फिर कोई ITC आपको रिवर्स करना है, जो भी करना है वो आप इसी में कर दो. अगर आपको लगता है कि अगर आपने वो नहीं किया तो आप इसी में कर दो, करके फिर इसके बाद जो नेट अगर ITC बचा हुआ है तो उसको आप ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो, तो उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम है नहीं. बट जो भी लाइबिलिटीज वगैरह है, ये GST 10 इज द लास्ट टाइम फॉर यू टू जस्ट सेटल ऑफ ऑल द ओल्ड liabilities and payments. So what if the final return is not filed? You'll be considered as a return defaulter. Okay, as per section 62, they will just pass an order under ASMT 13. और आप अगर within 30 days अगर आप इसको फाइल कर, रिटर्न को फाइल कर देते हो, then all the proceedings under this will be deemed to be withdrawn. So normally क्या होता है कि as I've discussed, वो जैसे ही आपको ये मिलता है ASMT 13, आप फाइल कर दो अपना फाइनल रिटर्न, तो आपका कुछ भी लाइबिलिटी, उसका जो भी ASMT 13 में जो भी ऑर्डर निकला है based on information available to the department, उसको आप नहीं पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा, उसका फर्दर प्रोसीडिंग भी कुछ नहीं होगा और ड्रॉप हो जाएगा. Okay, so what is the GST? This is one of the final things, friends. I would just like to draw your attention to this thing. This is because this is one of the most last two important things that we are discussing today. So what happens is, पुराना जो बिजनेस था डिजीज प्रोपाइटर का, वो ट्रांसफर हो रहा है टू द न्यू बिजनेस ऑफ द लीगल एयर. तो इसमें काफी टाइम क्वेश्चंस आ रही है हम लोगों के पास कि सर ये पुराना बिजनेस जो सेल कर रहा है, इट इज सेल ऑफ बिजनेस पे तो सर आपका टैक्स बनता है, GST में टैक्स है, GST है, तो इस पे हम लोग टैक्स क्यों नहीं देंगे? तो टैक्स क्यों नहीं देंगे? बिकॉज द सिंपल रीजन इज दिस हैज बीन कवर्ड अंडर एंट्री नंबर 2 ऑफ नोटिफिकेशन 12/2017. How? Services by way of transfer of the going concern as a whole or as an independent part is wholly exempted from GST. So, since the disease proprietor's entire business with assets and liabilities is being transferred to the new legal, to the business of the legal heir, that's why it's a transfer of business as a going concern and is exempted from GST, and so no GST is payable. So no GST is payable when the deceased proprietor, his business is being transferred to the new person. तो अगर इसके लिए अगर आपको कोई भी शो कॉज मिलता है, please refer to this particular entry in notification number 12/2017. Because why am I sharing this? Because in one of the cases we have got this notice. We have got this notice saying that you have transferred a business. So why have you not paid the GST on that? Then we had to later on go and explain that, sir, this is actually on the death of the deceased proprietor as a going concern. We have transferred under section 18(3). And one more important supporting of this is that this has been clarified under 96 of 2019 that this is going to happen. That in case of death of the proprietor, if you are transferring the ITC, you can transfer it to ITC 03. So it is equivalent to transfer of the going concern. It is considered as that. But there is one caveat to this. Please be aware of that I've already shared with you. In one of the cases that happened, that the lady, she just took off, whatever assets were there in the business of the deceased proprietor, she didn't take off the liabilities. So in this case, what happened is that it was not a case of transfer of the entire business as a going concern. And so in this case, the exemption was not applicable. Okay, so please be careful while you are drafting, while you are thinking about the entire thing. Let's look into all the nook and corners of GST Act. किस पे कहाँ पे hit हो रहा है? Because this death of the proprietor is a very tricky issue because you are handling a person, the legal heir, who has in 19% of the situations I have found situations wherein the person has no idea about all these business situations, and so they are depending totally on the compliance and the compliance specialists or the taxation specialists to guide them and take them forward. So please remember that since it's a transfer of the business as a going concern, no GST is applicable because it's exempted as per the exemption notification. Finally, this is about the legal heir receiving a show cause notice, wherein that there is some notice कि ऐसा है कि the disease provider ने, just suppose if you take the old case that I was discussing कि 8 लाख का ITC है, ये मतलब जिसने आपको बिल किया है उनका कैंसलेशन, मतलब उनका कैंसलेशन था फ्रॉम डे 1, उनका रजिस्टर कैंसिल था, रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल था, तो इसके बाद भी उन्होंने आपको टैक्स इनवॉइस दिया है, आपको आपसे टैक्स कलेक्ट किया है, और ये लेकिन टैक्स जो है ये उनसे टैक्स मतलब पेबल नहीं था, उन्होंने दिया है, तो इसके लिए आपको आईटीसी रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा अलॉन्ग विद टैक्स एंड पेनल्टी। सब ऐसा ही कुछ आपको आपके पास शो कॉज नोटिस आ रहा है। जब पुराना सिचुएशन में था ऑप्शन 1 में जहां पे कि बिजनेस डिसकंटिन्यू हो रहा है, वहां पे मैंने आपको बताया था कि सर या मैडम देयर इज वन लिमिटेशन लाइंग टू द अमाउंट अवेलेबल फ्रॉम द स्टेट। मतलब मेरा अगर नेट एसेट माइनस लायबिलिटी है 2 लाख, अगर डिमांड है 8 लाख ऑफ टैक्स इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी, मैं 2 लाख तक ही दे सकता हूँ, उससे ज्यादा मैं नहीं दे सकता हूँ, एंड नोबडी कैन फोर्स टू कलेक्ट बियॉन्ड दैट। बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली that protection is not there when the legal heir is continuing the business. Okay, why it is not there? Firstly, because 93(1)(b) says so. Okay, that whatever liability is there, that liability has to be paid by the legal heir of the other person, legal representative of the other person. So if I just read the entire reply, because I think I should just read the reply here because it's very important. So in case the legal heir receives any SCN due to short or non-payment, short or non-deduction of tax, ITC claimed in excess for reasons other than fraud and reasons willful misrepresentation, etc., you need to submit the necessary documents and information against the SCN. Please don't go on. In a few situations, we have seen that in these cases, the legal heirs, they have gone giving, letters saying that मुझे कुछ मालूम नहीं है, I am just new to business, I don't know कैसे से ये कहाँ पे है डॉक्यूमेंट, ये बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स कहाँ पे रखा हुआ है, ये this cannot be the grounds to get any legal remedy. Let us tell the legal representatives ki sir, yeah madam, this is for your benefit, let us dig into the documents and the information and file reply to the show cause notice and get out of this particular situation. So it is, if it is ascertained the tax is payable and he does not want to prefer appeal, then the same has to be paid by the legal heir as per the provisions. Only relief or remedy available to us is that we find this is genuinely not payable. ठीक है ना, और फिर भी उसके बाद भी आपके पास वो एक ऑर्डर आता है कि नहीं आपको देना है, because as I was discussing today just before the beginning of the session that friends, yesterday there was a very significant amendment happening to GST Act which is very small. Okay, it is very small. I don't know how many of us have actually, many of us have actually gone through it because we are seeing it in the different WhatsApp groups. But I would like to just tell you that it has just said that the proper officer shall say वो may हो गया है. So the proper officer may communicate that this thing is there and you have not paid the payment of tax, and then issue the reason for show cause notice. So now straight away without issuing DRC 01A, they can just issue DRC 01, just say that you have not paid this tax and so pay. So अगर आपको लगता है कि ये payable नहीं है, then only way out for you is to go into appeals. Further, section 85(1) also says where a taxable person liable to pay tax under this act transfers his business in whole or in part by sale, gift, leave, or in any other manner whatsoever, the taxable person and the person to whom the business is so transferred shall jointly and severally be liable wholly or to the extent of such transfer to pay the tax, interest or penalty due from the taxable period up to the time of such transfer. So there is one binding in section 93(1)(b), another binding in 85(1), wherein the liability is made joint and several. So अगर कुछ liability बनता है तो वो दोनों legal मतलब अपना disease proprietor का भी है और legal heir का भी है. अगर disease proprietor का अपनी asset liability सारा अपने अपने books में आपने ले लिया है तो इसके बाद उनके पास कोई asset रहने का बात नहीं है. तो जो भी है आपके पास ही books में assets पड़ा हुआ है तो उसी में से आपको पैसा भरना है अगर आपको कोई tax liability भरना है तो. So there, please refer to both these sections, section 85(1) and section 93(1). If the legal heir who is continuing the business of the deceased receives the demand for, will he be liable to pay the tax? This is what I have just discussed as of now. That 93(1) में जो करना है कि उनको अगर मिलता है, then they have to pay it. The legal representative of the other person, they have to make good the payment of the taxes which are due for the person, whether the demand is before his death or after his death, that is immaterial. So this is what is there. Okay, and I would just like to say that if there is any question, we would take the questions, and I've tried my best to cover. But if still there is something which we may mutually discuss, maybe I would be glad discussing those things.
Yes, participant. If anyone having questions, please ask, sir, or put your question in chat box.
If there are any questions relating to this particular topic, then maybe we can just.
So there is one question from C. Shyam Agarwal. If legal heir already registration is succession certificate compulsory? Not getting.
No, succession certificate is not compulsory. Only in some states they are actually asking for succession certificate. But if the legal heir is already there in the registration, then succession certificate will not be compulsory.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, there is another question from Mr. Nikun Shah. He's asking that this is a very important question. I have missed that in the deliberation. Thank you, Nikunji, for taking up this question. Can ITC 02 for transfer of ITC credit be filed 2 times? Unfortunately, as per the law, it can be filed only once. So, इसलिए अगर ITC 02 we are filing for the transfer of credit, let us check everything properly and then transfer it. Because Nikunji's question reminds me that recently we found one case जहाँ पे कि 40 lakhs का credit छूट गया उनसे. Though that is not in a similar case, not in the case of a death of a proprietor, but that's in a normal transfer of business. But 40 lakhs का ITC छूट गया था, and we have gone to very senior levels also, and but nobody is able to do anything just because the law binds it. There is no one written in the law as of now to do any corrections to ITC 02. So that's why they have brought in this thing of CA certificate actually. So that even after the thing, there is a second check.
Any of the member having any query?
I'll just share my contact details also here. Just 1 second.
लैपटॉप मैंने लिया था 43 बोला था क्रोमा वाला और डिटेल्स में.
So these are my contact details. So in case you want have any future further doubts, also you can send me a mail. So I think that not be a challenge. And if you have
let me do unmute.
I'm doing him unmute, but हो नहीं रहा है उनको.
हेलो
There is no.
हेलो
हाँ बोलिए
सर, एक जैसे अगर
सर, आपका वॉल्यूम थोड़ा बढ़ाना पड़ेगा सर, आपका वॉल्यूम थोड़ा लो है.
क्या वॉल्यूम?
हाँ बोलिए.
You are not audible.
हेलो, अभी है ऑडिबल? हेलो
हाँ बोलिए सर.
सर, इफ लीगल हेयर इज ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड, तो वो ये तो फिर नया रजिस्ट्रेशन ले नहीं सकता ये बोल के कि भाई कि बिकॉज ऑफ द डेथ ऑफ द प्रोप्राइटर रजिस्ट्रेशन चाहिए उसका ऑलरेडी.
अच्छा अच्छा, आप बोल रहे हो लीगल हेयर इज ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड.
ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड, उस केस
हाँ.
में क्या होगा?
हाँ. अच्छा, तो नहीं, इसमें तो फिर रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं लेना पड़ता है ना.
तो सर वो बिजनेस फिर कैसे ट्रांसफर होगा? डायरेक्ट वो ITC 02 फाइल कर दे वो डिसीज के पोर्टल से.
हाँ, इसमें तो आपका इजी हो गया ना, एक स्टेप आपका कम हो जाता है. श्याम अग्रवाल जी का क्वेश्चन है. एक्चुअली आई कुडंट अंडरस्टैंड इट प्रॉपर्ली बिकॉज़ इसमें वो बोल रहे हैं कि जो लीगल हेयर है, he or she already has a business in his or her name. अभी जो डिसीज प्रोप्राइटर है उनका जो बिजनेस है उसमें सिर्फ सिंपली आपको जो करना पड़ेगा, आपको ITC 02 फाइल करना पड़ेगा, क्रेडिट को ट्रांसफर करना पड़ेगा, फिर डिजीज प्रोप्राइटर का जो भी आपका बिजनेस है उसको कैंसिल करना पड़ेगा, बस.
Right.
एंड सर एक और क्वेश्चन, सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट का जो है,
हाँ.
तो उसमें किसी भी केस में सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी.
No, succession certificate is not mandatory as per the rules.
तो सर बाद में अगर कभी कोई डिस्प्यूट आए आपस में, अगर दो बेटे हैं और कुछ भी कि भाई कि मेरा सक्सेशन था, वो फिर GST को
नहीं, इसके लिए तो वो क्या करते हैं, आपका एक वो NOC ले लेते हैं, नॉट सक्सेशन, NOC ले लेते हैं सबसे, साइन बाय एवरीबॉडी. जैसे इफ दो बेटे हैं, तो दो बेटे, एंड सपोज आई जस्ट टेक दैट फॉर एग्जांपल कि हस्बैंड गुजर गए हैं, तो वाइफ एंड द टू सन्स, ऑल थ्री ऑफ देम नॉर्मली गिव अ NOC कि हाँ ठीक है, दिस वन सन विल बी द ऑथराइज्ड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव. क्योंकि इसमें दो जन तो हो नहीं सकते, क्योंकि वो फिर मतलब पार्टनरशिप हो जा रहा है. बट सक्सेशन इज कंपल्सरी इन सम ऑफ द स्टेट्स. इन सम ऑफ द स्टेट्स वो बोलते हैं कि सक्सेशन सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए हमको, इसलिए वहां पे लेट भी होता है थोड़ा.
Yes, any more questions?
In one of my client की SEC died and there is no legal heir. अच्छा, पूजा जी पूछ रहे हैं, in one of my client case the SEC died and there is no legal heir. I had applied for cancellation of registration, but till date it is not cancelled by. अच्छा, yes, this is a very practical problem which we have represented already. ये सिचुएशन क्या है कि जो आदमी बिजनेस कर रहे हैं उनका कोई लीगल एयर आगे आने वाला नहीं है, कि जो सपोज इन आई विल गिव यू वन ऑफ माय प्रैक्टिकल केसेस व्हिच आई फेस इन दिस. एक there was a gentleman, he was only 36 years when he passed away, and he used to carry a medicine pharma business. अभी उनके गुजर जाने के बाद उनके घर में उनकी मम्मी है जिनका एज इज क्लोज टू 70. Now she is saying that I am not going to get into all these hassles कि कौन साइन करेगा, कौन मतलब ये करेगा, ये. तो उसमें क्या हुआ था, उसमें कैंसलेशन के लिए आपको जो करना पड़ेगा, हम लोगों ने जो किया था बाद में, ऑफिसर को रिक्वेस्ट किया प्रोवाइडिंग ऑल द इंफॉर्मेशन कि सर ये डेथ सर्टिफिकेट है, ये मतलब ये है, आप सुमोटो कैंसिल कर दो. क्योंकि हम लोग तो वैसे भी 6 महीने हम लोग फाइल नहीं कर पा रहे रिटर्न, तो आप इसको सुमोटो कैंसिल, बिकॉज सेक्शन 29 इफ यू सी, Section 29 says that you can actually do suo motu. Officer can do suo motu cancellation. Just give me 1 second. I'll just. Yeah. See here, section 29(1) reads, the proper officer may, either on his own motion or on an application filed by the registered person or by his legal heirs, in case of death of such person, cancel the registration in such manner and within such period as may be prescribed. So यहाँ पे दोनों ऑप्शन दिया गया है, either on his own motion or on an application. तो अगर लीगल एयर अप्लाई नहीं करते हैं, देन ही कैन डू इट ऑन हिज ओन. तो हम लोगों ने उनको वो रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि इनके जो माँ है तो वो 70 इयर्स है, शी इज नॉट विलिंग टू साइन एनी पेपर्स बिकॉज शी इज थिंकिंग दैट अगर हम लोग कुछ भी पेपर साइन करवा रहे हैं तो प्रॉपर्टी रिलेटेड हो सकता है, क्या होगा नहीं होगा. तो फाइनली शी डिडंट साइन एनीथिंग. सो देन वी टुक बिकॉज ही हैज अ सिस्टर हु इज कंसर्न कि क्या होगा बाद में, कौन देगा लायबिलिटी वगैरह. So then we went there and we actually told the officer. Then the officer took a lot of time, of course, 9 months, and then he did a cancellation of that on a suo motu basis.
Sir, we have talked with the officer also and presented the death certificate also, but almost 1 year is going to complete, but अभी तक उन्होंने किया नहीं है.
हाँ, उसमें इसमें थोड़ा टाइम लगता है बिकॉज सी नॉर्मली अगर आप 6 महीने रिटर्न नहीं देते हो तो देखना कि आपका सो मोटो कैंसिल कर देते हैं नॉर्मल बिजनेस में. बट इन दिस डेथ एसएससी केसेस दे वेरी मतलब टाइम लेते हैं और फिर वो देख के नहीं अच्छा नहीं हो रहा है, फाइल नहीं हो रहा है, देन ओनली दे विल डू इट. बट आपका क्या है कि देखिए आपका लायबिलिटी और कुछ नहीं होगा अगर आपने वो डाल दिया है. मतलब आपने क्या कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन आपने खुद डाला है ना?
हमने डाल दिया, हमने कैंसिल एप्लीकेशन.
हाँ, तो आपने डाल दिया तो अभी सस्पेंशन में चला जाएगा. एंड ओनली व्हेन आफ्टर मे बी 1 ईयर और जब भी उनका होगा वो अगर आपको क्वेरी करेंगे कि आपका मतलब और कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स अगर देना, वो डॉक्यूमेंट देने से फिर वो कैंसिल करेंगे.
तो उस केस में हम तब तक रिटर्न फाइल करें उसका कि नहीं करें?
नहीं करना पड़ेगा आपको बिकॉज सब रूल 3 ऑफ रूल 21A सेज दैट अगर आपने एप्लीकेशन डाला है कैंसिलेशन का तो आपका कैंसिलेशन मतलब आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन सस्पेंशन मोड में चला गया. तो
बट वो
सस्पेंशन मोड में
ऑनलाइन एक्टिव अभी भी दिखा रहा है हमें.
हाँ, क्या बोल रहे हैं?
ऑनलाइन उसके रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर डाल दे, जीएसटी नंबर, तो वो उसके वहाँ पे स्टेटस एक्टिव दिखाता है.
हाँ, वो तो जब
बट
तक
ऐसा
कैंसिल नहीं होगा एक्टिव दिखाएगा.
नोटिस आने लग गया और फिर उसके घर वालों बोले कि आपको हमने बोला था और ये नहीं हुआ अभी तक, ऐसा कोई इशू?
नहीं, वो जब तक कैंसिलेशन ऑर्डर पास नहीं होगा एक्टिव ही दिखाएगा, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. आप एक जो कर सकते हो, अभी नया एक चीज चालू हुआ है, वो एक ग्रीवांस में आप एक बार उसका एआरएन डाल के एक बार कर सकते हो क्योंकि द ग्रीवांस थिंग आर गोइंग टू वेरी हाई लेवल ऑफिसर्स नाउ. तो उसमें आप एक बार डाल के मतलब देख सकते हो कि उसमें अगर कोई रिपोर्टेशन आ रहा है. बट नॉर्मली व्हाट द डिपार्टमेंटल ऑफिसर्स हैव टोल्ड अस कि डेथ में हम लोग थोड़ा वेट करके खुद करते हैं, मतलब में मतलब कैंसिलेशन नहीं करते हैं क्योंकि डेथ में क्या हो रहा है कि 2-3 फ्रॉड भी हुआ है. मतलब सपोज दो, हाँ नहीं, बिकॉज इन वन ऑफ द फ्रॉड केसेस व्हाट हैपेंड, देयर वर 2 सन्स एंड एक बेटा ने जाके बता दिया कि मेरे पिताजी गुजरे, वो कहाँ से डेथ सर्टिफिकेट भी ले लिया एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स वर देयर. सो देन लेटर ऑन दे डिड दैट इट वाज अ फ्रॉड एंड ऑल. तो इसलिए डेथ केस में दे वेरी मतलब थोड़ा देख के कर रहे हैं.
थैंक यू.
Okay, CA Dinesh Kabanegi is saying proprietary concern is converted into partnership firm. Whether GST credit balance of proprietorship firm can be claimed in partnership firm. But नहीं, इसमें सर क्या है कि अगर आपका सेल ऑफ कंपनी एज ए गोइंग कंसर्न हो रहा है, then only it can be done. Only if the proprietary concern is sold to the partnership company, all the business, all the assets and liabilities, तभी जाके आपका ये क्रेडिट का मतलब ट्रांसफर हो सकता है. Further, the proprietary concern is engaged into construction contract and existing contract shall be completed in proprietorship firm only. अच्छा, so if the proprietorship concern is going to complete जो भी काम है तो उनका ITC जो भी होगा वो तो वही यूज कर सकते हैं. उनको मतलब वो ITC फिर वहां पे ट्रांसफर करने से उनका तो फायदा होगा नहीं पार्टनरशिप में. तो इसका मतलब दो ही है, एक है कि अगर आप ऑल एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज ले रहे हैं तो फिर आप आईटीसी ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं, और अगर आपका ऑल एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज नहीं ले रहे हैं तो फिर इन दैट केस जो भी एसेट्स ले रहे हैं दैट विल बी टैक्सेबल इन द बुक्स ऑफ द प्रोप्राइटरशिप कंपनी. एंड आपका जो आईटीसी जो भी है वो अगर आप एग्जॉस्ट कर सकते हो तो यहीं पे प्रोप्राइटरशिप में एग्जॉस्ट कर लेना बेटर है.
Any more questions? One question is from Vikas. What is to be taken care of if proprietor is changed from father to son?
The proprietor. नहीं सर विकास जी ये थोड़ा क्वेश्चन और एक बार बोलना पड़ेगा. What is to be taken care of if proprietor is changed from father to son? अच्छा मतलब आप बोल रहे हो कि फादर के नाम पे प्रोप्राइटरशिप था अभी सन. इन दिस केस व्हाट यू हैव टू डू इज फर्स्ट थिंग इज आपको एक नया ट्रेड लाइसेंस करना पड़ेगा इन द नेम ऑफ द सन, जो मैक्सिमम लोग नहीं करते हैं. प्लीज टेक केयर ऑफ दैट. सम फर्स्ट एज पर आवर टैक्स सेपरेट बिजनेस आइडेंटिटी हैज टू बी एस्टैब्लिश्ड. मतलब फादर का अलग बिजनेस आइडेंटिटी है, सन का अलग बिजनेस आइडेंटिटी है. तभी जाके फादर से जो भी आपका एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज ट्रांसफर हो रहा है वो हो सकता है. एंड उसमें आईटीसी वगैरह जो भी ट्रांसफर कर रहे हो आप कर सकते हो. और इसमें फिर वो जीएसटी का टैक्स भी आपको नहीं लगेगा ऑन सेल एज अ गोइंग कंसर्न. बट अगर आप ऐसा कर रहे हो कि सिर्फ उसी ट्रेड लाइसेंस में आप उसमें फादर का नेम चेंज करके सन का कर रहे हो, देन इट बिकम्स अ चैलेंज बाद में. क्योंकि इन केस ऑफ प्रोप्राइटरशिप द रजिस्ट्रेशन इज बेस्ड ऑन द पैन ऑफ द प्रोप्राइटर, तो इसलिए उसमें एक प्रॉब्लम है. तो आइडियली व्हाट यू डू इज आप पहले एक सन के नाम पे एक ट्रेड लाइसेंस कराओ, उसमें आप एक नया जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लो, लेके फिर फादर से आप सन में वो सब एसेट लायबिलिटीज ट्रांसफर आईटीसी ट्रांसफर के आप एक मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग कर लीजिए, करके सारा एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज ट्रांसफर कीजिए, आईटीसी भी ट्रांसफर कीजिए. तो ये करने में थोड़ा प्रोसेस ओरिएंटेड हो जाएगा, बट जो होगा कि आगे जाके आपको कोई कॉम्प्लायंस का कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा.
Sir, another question is there from Dilip Agela, sir. Is it meant to file nil return till final surrender of number?
No, sir. It is not required because अगर आपका सब रूल 3 of rule 21A of CGST rules देखेंगे, वहां पे बताया गया है कि जब तक आपका कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन डिस्पोज ऑफ नहीं हो जाता है आपको रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करना पड़ेगा. हाँ, अगर कल जाके आपको एक ही प्रॉब्लम आ सकता है, कल अगर जाके आपका कैंसिलेशन ऑर्डर जो है वो रिजेक्ट हो जाता है, देन यू हैव टू फाइल ऑल द रिटर्न्स फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ कैंसिलेशन टिल द डेट ऑफ रिजेक्शन ऑफ ऑर्डर. बट अगर आपका कैंसिलेशन हो जाता है, कैंसिलेशन ऑर्डर आपको मिल जाता है, देन फ्रॉम द डेट आपने कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन डाला है टू द डेट ऑफ कैंसिलेशन ऑर्डर आपको कोई भी रिटर्न डालना नहीं पड़ेगा, चाहे वो नील रिटर्न हो या नील रिटर्न ही होगा, क्योंकि जब आपने कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन डाल दिया है उसके बाद लेकिन आप कोई भी टैक्सेबल सेल नहीं कर सकते हैं. तो इसलिए इट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी. दिलीप जी, ये मैंडेटरी नहीं है टू फाइल एनी रिटर्न आफ्टर यू फाइल द कैंसिलेशन एप्लीकेशन. मतलब आपने जब सरेंडर कर दिया उसके बाद से कुछ भी नहीं करना है.
Shall we end here? I guess there are no more questions. Okay. I request C. Arunaran to offer a formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Arup sir, for your valuable time and such wonderful insights to the topic. I am sure all the participants, including me, had a great time listening to you and gaining knowledge from this session, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Looking forward to such wonderful sessions in near future with you, sir.
Thank you very much, and it was a wonderful session with all of you, and also the questions that have come up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, everyone.